Good evening. You're listening live to the Two Extreme Horror Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Indian Hill Studios next to a tiny dwarf lake. I have with me on the sat front from the great Midwest, where I hear it's freezing now, and it's a balmy 72 here in Central Florida. I've got RDV on the line. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I am doing great. Fun day. Got to see this movie. I enjoyed it. Holy crap. And I'm not going to say it because I'm biased because I like Vince Vaughn movies, but holy crap. This is actually good.
The movie, of course, is Freaky with Vince Vaughn.
It's what Disney never had the balls to do, basically.
Well, I think bringing up Disney is an interesting point. I definitely want to get to that. So I want to start off by mentioning how in the early 80s, there's some really great films, some Charles Bronson films that like 10 to Midnight we've recorded and a few others that we're going to be doing soon. And then we mentioned how on Top 10 Tuesdays with Angela Teen from I Love Comics, our 1988 version coming right after this stream, that around 85 is when movies kind of really jumped the shark and came completely corporate and everything else. They weren't dark and they weren't underground enough. But around that time, Steve Martin did a movie, Black and White Dead Men, called Don't Wear Plaid with Rachel Ward in it. And in there, he's singing a little song while he's drugged up. And it's Brill Cream, a little dab will do you, or something while he's being poisoned or whatever. And that reminded me of this movie Freaky because I called it the Brill Cream bonus. And that's Brill Cream, a little dagger will do ya. Get it? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? For Freaky? The little dagger? Because that's what this movie is all about, in case you don't know. Yes, we have body switching. Yes, we have gay representation to the hilt here. It's not a horror movie, even though it's on the Two Extreme Horror Show, so that's my fault. But it's still a good movie, and you're right, it is. And I think it's fun, too. So why don't you start off by talking about what you like most about this?
Like I said, it's Vince Vaughn. You got him playing a 6'5", kind of like a Jason kind of killer in this movie.
Yes.
It starts off with these kids, they're just, two guys, two girls, this kind of, the kids, they're sitting at their parents' house. They're rich kids. You have, they're talking about, the butcher, it's on the ghost story. It's like, yeah, the butcher, all these years ago, he'd kill kids, they had sex in the debauchery, and it was. And I was thinking, like, wow, they're really sticking there. They're really going for this. They're gonna make it like a Jason thing, And of course, the one guy scares his girlfriend. He knocks her hand. She spills her beer over, and he's already pissed. He's not getting laid, even if he doesn't die. He's not getting laid.
Right.
So she goes inside. She goes basically clean her shirt off. He's in there goofing around. He's goes down to the cellar, pulls out a bottle, and then ends up dropping because he's scared. He hears a noise, and he's pissed off. He's like, I'm thinking, bratty little rich boy. Actually, he's not even rich. It's the girl. It's one of the other girls. It's her parents' house. So he's just a guest in there. It's
a sweet crib.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I like the fact that we the kills in here in this movie, especially in the beginning.
Well, and the thing too is with Vince Vaughn, and we all know from the trailer because we've covered that here that they're going to have the body switch, the spirit switch, whatever you want to call it, and so he's going to get to play like this girly, high school teenage girl, and she's going to get to play him, which I think is something we're going to talk about here in a moment. But I mean, automatically we think it's going to be goofy, but right off the bat, you get the same old typical horror story with whatever past history sort of thing going on, whatever urban legend thing in this case. You got kids partying, so you're like, yeah, we want to see them all die. But this death is kind of brutal with the wine bottle going through the dude's mouth and then his throat. I was like, okay, I know this is going to be a funny movie, but this was really extreme.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I just that was just something that I thought of when you mentioned that too before. I see that Angela Teen from I Love Comics like to join. So I will work on getting you a link here in a moment. So Doctor, go ahead and continue, please.
Continue this, and so basically, it's these group of teens were pretty much brutally murdered. Especially the one that owns the house. She's like the last one. She hides in the closet, and she's got the secret little hallway. I was figuring, like, where did she go? And then it dawned on me, oh, it's her parents' house. She's the one that owns this. So, of course, they have a little secret compartment inside the closet to hide.
Yep.
Little panic room. He walks away, and I'm thinking, like, this guy's smart. He's not your typical killer, and they play on the trope of that where she's stupid. She gets out, she doesn't hear anything, thinks he left, comes out, and then he basically just kills her. He picks her up, throws her onto a freaking antler thing, and then leaves. But first, when he leaves, he grabs a knife. This is the knife that comes to play into the rest of the movie. But as I said, I love the fact that her parents come home and they find that she's just laying there. So we're already getting the dark kind of horror comedy movie, and yeah. So then we are introduced into basically the rest of the cast. We get introduced to Kathryn Newton, and her older sister, who's a cop, and then her mom, who is an alcoholic, who's grieving because her father, her husband, they passed away a year before.
Yeah.
So we're introduced to her, and the fact that they're really playing into the trope where she's very shy, timid. She's basically a final girl. Basically, I would describe her as basically kind of being like in Scream, Neve Campbell.
Yeah, she's the one that this movie's obviously going to center around too. So I think getting to see what happens to her in pretty short order is pretty neat too. I see Old Man Comics has joined us. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Peachy.
Peachy, great stuff. You said you saw Freaky then, right?
I watched this. Yeah, I watched this yesterday through.
You watched it yesterday.
Yes, I watched this yesterday, and I was thinking, wow, this is two really interesting films here I'm watching. Though I hear you guys just got done describing the opening scene, which I think is far. I want to see that movie, in all honesty.
Yes.
Vince Vaughn as a serial killer, brilliant. I mean he's huge. He's got the look for it. Obviously, I was actually kind of enjoying how it was going. I don't mind the humor of the second half, but yeah, holy crap, there are two movies going on right here.
Well, and that's where. If anything, and I know you bag on me behind my back saying that if I don't like a movie, I say it's not a horror film, and if it's a horror movie, it's supposed to be scary. And,
oh no, I bag on you in your face too.
Well, you have to show up for that to happen. Yeah. But the bottom line is that you're right, and that's what I was leading to as far as the performances, which we were going to talk about, because that was my thought too. Is that this first opening thing? You're right. It hooks you, even though it's. Really predictable, but after the gore scene and all that, I'm like, okay, they're not screwing around here. But I thought, okay, it's supposed to get funny, and when does it get funny? And it does. And I hate horror comedy because if it's going to be cute, if you're going to have a really sharp, gay main character like you do in here, who I thought did a good job. Yep. That's fine. But when you get kind of swishy in the second half overall, and things get kind of lighthearted after a brutal opening, I think it fails in that sense. I'm not saying it's not a good movie, but no, this is a comedy movie. Let's not act like it's a horror movie. It's just that it's unfortunate that the horror elements, it does well. And it actually, to me, is a bit of a distraction. And actually, kind of playing off what RDB said, and I don't know what you guys think about this, we knew Vince Vaughn was going to do well. I was more interested to see how she was going to do, and I thought she nailed it. I thought she did a great job. I thought it was more important for her to do well than Vince Vaughn, and for me, that's what really succeeded with this movie. What do you guys think?
I think that. All right, so I think they did a fine job in the script by making sure that she didn't speak. One of the things they did very well when she was made up to be sexy as the serial killer, which I wondered, where did Vince Vaughn's character learn how to put on makeup and do women's hair?
YouTube, bro.
I guess so. But still, the way that the makeup was done, if you look, it made everything more angular. So when she's the nice kid before she becomes the serial killer.
She's round and soft and feminine.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
And then all the features become angular, but she doesn't speak. She just stares and she looks, and it in some scenes quite creepily. So yeah, you're right. She does pull this off.
Better than any of that crap on Westworld.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the reason that they chose her for this role is based on her performance in Supernatural. Same thing. If you watch Supernatural, you watch through from 2015 through all the way through 2019, those couple different seasons or over, she is badass in this and Supernatural. And I'm not saying, I'm a tough girl. No, actually is pretty good. So having done that stuff, coming into this is basically like an Evil Dead 2 movie. You're going to get the gore, you're going to get the comedy, and you're going to get the suspense.
Yeah, and one of the things that's very important is that she is a tough girl and she's not acting like a tough girl, which of course we called out during the Batwoman preview.
Well, and I love this. She even says like, oh, when she confronts, Millie inside Vince's body, it's like, oh, it's like, yeah, damn, she makes comments about this damn weak body. It's like, you must really love having the strength. Because being in that weak little body, it's harder to kill people.
Yeah, which I'm very glad they played around with. She had to come up with different ways to kill people than.
But I love this. This is Freaky Friday mixed with Mean Girls, mixed with like Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that stood out early on for me, and some movies really benefit from it more than others, and so, to me, horror movies can benefit tremendously for it because atmosphere adds a lot to a horror movie. And even though this is a comedy movie, to me, the music really stuck out. It's done by Bear McCreary, who I think's done The Walking Dead and a bunch of other stuff, but that really was like, wow, to your point, E, that's the movie I wanted to see too, because I honestly don't remember if this is supposed to be rated R or PG. It felt PG with R elements. I mean, if it was a 1980s film, it would probably be rated G. It's just some cartoonish stuff.
This was definitely R because of the kills in here.
Yeah, that kill in the beginning definitely.
Yeah, I'm being a little sarcastic, but it brings me up to the other thing too. Is I like the fact that, as we've mentioned before on a few streams, not too many, but mostly on the Xtreme Classics, where we talk about really older films, is that it's hard for women to find roles, as starring roles, and the starring roles today for a lot of women that are younger really have a PC element to them. But I'm talking more about older women, and to me, I think the same can be said about older men, because you have Ferris Bueller's bro as the shop teacher, who's a real jerk off in here, and he doesn't overdo it like you would expect in a comedy movie, but he's just enough of a stiff prick where you're like, okay, I don't hate him, but I know he's going to get whacked. And then when he gets the table saw treatment, I'm like, yeah, okay, I saw that coming. But a part of me wishes that, even though someone like our age, we pop for seeing somebody recognized before, and somebody young today seeing it would go, who the hell's this guy? He's a nobody. But I wish they would have replaced the brutality of these kills with maybe a slightly more creative way of going about taking people out. Not that they weren't graphic, not that they didn't do the job, not that they didn't have stupid amounts of gore or whatever, but I just thought, okay, we know Vince Vaughn's going to be the girl, and that's what we're going to say. And to your point, the girl in here is quiet because she's playing the killer, so that's cool. But damn it, since this is supposed to be a laugh, right? Let's have some creative kind of stuff with the kills. I mean, maybe beating them with the doghouse that they were supposed to be making in there would have been a lot more funnier to me than using the table saw. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're gonna do that, do it. You know what I mean?
Well, like I said, she first stabbed him in the freaking. He basically Ellen Ruck overpowered her. She was able to stab him in the neck finally, and then put him on the table. And I thought, well, like I said, like that's. I guess she could have just let him bleed out, but no, they're going for the gore factor.
Yeah.
It's basically, and as far as being creative like that, it's like, well, how can you? Pretty much Jason and freaking Freddy ruined all that.
I think they can come up with some.
It just takes the writers to sit down and say, okay, what can we do differently?
The kills in the beginning, the tennis racket.
Yeah, I like that snap. Boom, makes a cornhole holder out of them. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the business side of it before we finish up with the ending of the movie. And to me, this is a movie we had reviewed, just doing some trailer reviews. And of course, things have happened over this year in 2020 with COVID and schedules changing. It opened on Friday the 13th, an appropriate date for it. To me, it didn't seem like there was as much hype for it necessarily as there was when it was originally getting released. And it's going on video on demand, I think, in about a week or so. And I do know that I think not just Universal, but I want to say the old Cinemark movie chain came to an agreement with some other major studio as far as reducing the amount of time that a movie can be in the theater before it goes on the video demand. So just to note that this movie, it's broken even so far. It's probably would have done better without COVID, but it's going to get a little bit of life, I think, on video on demand. For those of you who are interested in seeing it, it'll be out like in about a week and a half if you're not seeing it in theaters. But it's a solid movie, in my opinion. I think it's decent. It's above average for the crap that's out there today, although that doesn't say much. But again, both the acting by both of them is really, really good. But I just think this is yet another movie like a few others that have come out this year, and even all the stuff going on with the James Bond movie, that's going to show that you're gonna have to take a little bit better approach with making your craft here, because this video on demand business is not going to go away. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, because I think Freaky would have actually been a bigger hit if we had no COVID and people were going to the theaters.
Well, definitely. A nice, once it hits, hits the streaming, it's gonna. I think it'll take off.
This probably had a budget of maybe 6 or 7 million, half of it being Vince Vaughn, but it's definitely on its way to make its money even in the theater. I mean, it's 3,600,000 in, which is not bad for now. It looks horrible if it was any other time,
right?
But yeah, this thing is definitely going to be a money maker. Not as much as it would have been, but once it hits streaming, especially if they and I've noticed this, if you wait 2 weeks, it drops a little. If you wait 2 weeks, it drops a little. Yep. As it goes, this thing's
right now it had a budget of 6 million, but the box office is 5.7 million.
Okay,
but that's expected, though, because no one's going to theaters.
Yeah, right now I'm looking at the weekend, and so that would have been just Friday through Sunday.
Yeah,
and that was 36. If it made 5 million already before it even hits the streaming, it's going to already make its money back. So it's all profit from.
But the jokes in this actually made me laugh. There's a lot of movies that are supposed to be comedies, and I just don't laugh at them. Like Hot Rod, there are certain things I laugh at, but there's so many jokes in there I just don't care for. It's like
Hot Rod is tremendous.
But like I said, like it's like when she's possessed by the killer, and this guy puts his hand in her butt, and she's like, "You'll never make any woman, pussy wet." It's like, my pussy's so dry, and they just fucks up the kid mentally. It's like, and what was it?
You know what star from yesteryear I think would have done really, really well in here? Oh, Kathryn Hepburn. I just thought Kathryn Hepburn needs to be in a body switch horror movie. Anyway, go ahead.
But like I said, the jokes in there are hilarious. I think Vince Vaughn plays a better girl than Jack Black. I said it. There.
Oh, that's a high praise. I don't know if I can agree with that, but he did very well.
My gosh, that's the whole situation. When he's in there, he's in the boys' bathroom, and like he's taking a piss. And he's like, "Oh, it's so big," and the gay kid is like,
Yeah, and that was funny to me, so whether you think, you should have something like that in a movie in today's world you're going to, I thought that was kind of a funny line. Is everything else big? Like, okay, I get it.
Just the situation, like here put this mask on. What is this? It's Aaron Rodgers. He's a real famous quarterback for Green Bay Packers. I was like, really? And yeah, just the whole thing. Like they have like the guy with it's like at the mill. That's where the butcher's title was, And then again, when she first wakes up in his body, and he's like, "You got drugs?" He's like, "No." It's like, and starts talking about, "Do I look like a girl?" And he's like, "Oh, you're holding on me. You have drugs." So he's like, "Hold on, I'll suck your dick." The whole thing. I was like, really? Kind of gross. But there was some other cringe scenes when they're having that moment in the back of the squad car or the car.
That I was like, no, they're not going to go there.
No, I was like,
yes, they are.
It's Vince Vaughn. He does what he wants to do.
He's going to go. He's going to go wholeheartedly into the role, I guess.
I love it because they're laying there, and I like. It's like, "Oh, I love you," and they go to kiss, and he's like, "We should wait till we're back in their old bodies."
So my hand is not as big as your face. I like that line. I like that because it kind of throws into the whole thing about, all you got to do, I don't care. It's not the personality. All right. But, guys are going to be attracted to women, women, and men, and so forth and so on.
But
I'm glad they went that.
What really made me laugh though was the gay kid and has her tied up. The mom comes up. "Oh, we're just role playing. Is that a sex scheme?" "Sure, Mom. I need to tell you, I'm actually straight." The mom was like, "There's no way you're freaking straight, huh?"
Well, I would say overall, for my final thoughts, that I wasn't really surprised by anything in this movie. I think it lived up to the expectations, and part of that is that it did have a really good trailer, and I'm glad that the trailer wasn't 100% different than a movie, because that's, I think, the formula today. You get a trailer that has absolutely nothing to do, and it's got outtakes and cuts that make up that, and that's nothing to do with the film, or you see basically the entire film in 30 seconds to 2 minutes. But to me, I saw enough in a trailer maybe to go, oh, I like the idea, I get it, you've sold me Vince Vaughn, body swap, serial killer, comedy, and I think this movie succeeded. I'm not going to really talk too much about the ending, not that I could care less about being spoiler free, but like I say, I'll just simply say I was not really surprised by it from start to finish. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, horror movies, if done right, although to me this is a comedy, you can pump these things out, you can make your own intellectual property out of your little mini franchises instead of huge tentpoles and make consistent income. And that's what I currently like about the Blumhouse model. And I'm wondering when that's going to start watering down. But like we talked about earlier this year, some surprise movies. I don't know if Escape Room was Blumhouse, but I believe A Happy Death Day was, and Happy Death Day too. Yeah, so to me, those were pleasant surprises. So I like those. I think this was Blumhouse.
No, this is Universal.
Well, damn you, Universal!
But it's a Blumhouse.
You did this
special.
right, but you can't do the Dark Universe right. Go figure.
It's Blumhouse, but it's distributed by Universal Pictures.
Okay. Well, Universal was smart to basically say, "Hey, Blumhouse, here's $10 million. Go get it done. This is what we want." Because Universal fails at the big budget.
I want to say though, seeing her in the red jacket with the ponytail brought me back to our watch party, or not watch party, but our review of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Red leather jacket, the blonde ponytail.
I didn't think of that. That's a good point.
There's a scene in the end where she breaks because he basically breaks into her house. Vince Vaughn. They're back to normal bodies. He's gonna go kill her, and she breaks off a chair leg and then basically like shoves it in his chest, and then she kicks it, so it goes through it from his back to his chest. And I was like, damn, I'm getting Buffy vibes. Now you turn the dust down, and then basically you'll have it. So, and we always say we don't want another Buffy reboot, but I'm like, wow, at least I'd give this Kathryn Newton because she's played in Supernatural. She played a badass, and she played a badass in this towards the end too. So,
well, it just goes to show that, like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. It's just a variation on a theme. But if you care about the characters a little bit and a little bit of a gimmicky setup, that's about all you need these days, and this movie works.
Yeah.
Final thoughts.
It wasn't as good as I hoped. I still enjoyed it. I just think the beginning set us up for a movie that we didn't get. It still, I think, stuck the landing, but definitely not a 10.0. And I'm going to agree with you. This is a comedy. This is not a horror film. And that's why I say it's two different movies, because the opening sequence is straight up a horror film or a slasher film. And I don't know. I was so into what was happening. I was thinking, oh, man, because I was thinking maybe this was a reversal of The Mummy. I don't know if you remember the previews for the Brendan Fraser Mummy, but they sold it as a horror film, and what ended up was it was an adventure comedy. And it worked. Sure, fine. But this seemed like, okay, well, we know there's jokes in it. Is it going to be, more serious? It's still, like I said, for the movie I still liked it. I just kind of wish they kind of nailed the horror elements a little more. And look, it can happen like that. Shaun of the Dead is a comedy. It's not a horror film, but it's a good movie. So I'm not saying it's a bad film. It's possible to do a good,
make a decision.
Well, like I said, I would describe this as basically being the movie Scream in the sense of horror. There are gore moments and there are comedy moments.
But the thing is, Scream is a horror film with comedy elements. This is a comedy with horror elements, and that's where the two differ.
Tomato. I loved it. 10 out of 10.
It's no Scream, but it's worth watching. Well, E, thanks for the surprise showing. I'm glad I saw you in there too. So thanks for showing up. Guys, for listening. Ladies, we're going to be doing Top 10 Tuesday here shortly. It's going to be 1988 as we're closing out the year of the greatest decade of all times, the synthwave of the 1980s. We're going to see which film is number one. E will be hosting here shortly and sending out the link. So for RDV, E, and everybody else here involved in the Xtreme Movie Show, have a good night, and as always, stay extreme. Good night.
Stay extreme.